Welcome back to the Angry Man Podcast with Jason and Greg. So Shakur Stevenson defeated Omari Hardwick to capture the vacant WBC championship tonight in an unentertaining, uninspiring fight. Now, I know I did say Omari Hardwick. It was Edwin De Los Santos, but man, doesn't he look like Ghost? He looks just like Ghost to me. But anyway, neither one of the fighters landed double-digit punches in this particular fight. It was quite unentertaining, to be quite honest with you. And I know a lot of people are going to say Shakur Stevenson did what he needed to do to win the fight. And I agree with that. He did what he needed to do to win the fight. But in our initial breakdown of this fight, I thought the fight was going to be a lot more entertaining because my anticipation was that Shakur Stevenson was going to fight in a similar style that we've seen in the past, with him moving forward a little bit. And he was on the back foot almost the entire fight, taking that half a step back so Edwin De Los Santos could not reach him. Now, I did not realize that Shakur Stevenson was going to come into the ring and appear to be so much bigger than Edwin De Los Santos. He looked like a welterweight in there. Edwin De Los Santos, he didn't take a whole lot of risk. I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he didn't effectively cut off the ring to actually challenge Shakur Stevenson, and that's a fair assessment. But at the end of the day, Edwin De Los Santos isn't a star. He's not trying to be a pay-per-view star. He was just trying to win a title tonight. Shakur Stevenson is the one that's trying to be a pay-per-view star. Shakur Stevenson is the one that's asking for a 50-50 split with a unified, undisputed champion. Shakur Stevenson is the one that's interested in fighting Gervonta Davis. Shakur Stevenson is the one that says that he is selling himself and that Top Rank is doing a decent job, but he does an amazing job himself in promotion. So he needs to do a better job at fighting. Quite honestly, it's not enough to just get the victory. If you want to be a pay-per-view star, you have to entertain the people. And I got to say, I was upset about this fight being on a Thursday night, but it was appropriate for ESPN to bring back Thursday night fights for this particular fight. The card was not good. The only fight that was decent was Navarrete versus Conceição. That was the only fight that was halfway decent. The Brian Norman fight was not very entertaining tonight either. So Shakur, he has some soul searching or some thinking to do in regards to, a path forward. How do you entice these guys to get into the ring with you when you are not entertained? I mean, the fans had started booing after the second round. They were already booing Shakur Stevenson after the second round. They continued to boo all the way to the sixth. Now, don't get me wrong. Shakur Stevenson did attempt to start to put a little bit of pressure on, maybe like around 6 or 7, but it was ineffective too, and it was very cautious. And he got back on the back foot in round 11 and 12. As a matter of fact, round 12, I mean, he moved around the ring for the first 30 to 40 seconds. I mean, it's just unentertaining. So is this something that he's going to have to work on? Like, I'm not saying that he needs to necessarily change his style, but he needs to do something. He needs to modify his style to some extent where, it becomes more entertaining. And every time Edwin De Los Santos got on the inside, I want to make sure that it's clear because I was thinking about this. We can't call Devin Haney a guy that's grabbing and hugging all the time when every time De Los Santos got on the inside, Shakur Stevenson also hugged. Now, I'm not knocking that strategy. I'm really not, because at the end of the day, that's a sound strategy considering the guy is a puncher. And Shakur just used his range, took a half step back. And anytime he did get on the inside, he just tied him up. I mean, that's the strategy that you're going to have. But also understand that that's fine. But when someone says that you're a boring fighter, you can't get upset about it, right? You are employing a style that is not entertaining. Now, one other thing that I want to address, actually, there's probably a few other things that I want to address in regards to this, but I want to address ESPN commentary. ESPN commentary is absolutely horrible. It's horrible. And I'm not trying to knock Tim Bradley. Some people will probably say that I'm not a Tim Bradley fan, so they feel like, I'm knocking Tim Bradley. But at the end of the day, first and foremost, I felt like it was unbiased initially, but then they started talking about Edwin De Los Santos, trying to drive home this narrative that the reason or the issue that was going on was Edwin De Los Santos. Then at points in the fight where the fight literally was not entertaining, Shakur may have thrown a shot or two, maybe one landed. I hear Tim Bradley say this is beautiful boxing. It's not. Just because he's using his defensive prowess, he's taking a half a step back. He's avoiding any kind of exchanges. He's grabbing on the inside, and he lands a shot. It's not beautiful boxing. It's simply not. So I don't like when they start to try to paint this narrative. But not only that, they started also trying to paint this narrative about Shakur Stevenson not using his left hand. I saw Shakur Stevenson using his left hand, but I think the reason why he wasn't using his left hand was not because it was hurt, but more so it was a situation where if he would have thrown that punch, it would have maybe made him a little bit more susceptible to Edwin De Los Santos. So I think that's the reason why he really wasn't throwing that hand, but they were trying to throw out an excuse in regards to his left hand and trying to use that to justify the performance. They did something similar with Keyshawn Davis. Remember his last fight? He didn't look good. And they started to talk about his tummy. He got tummy ache. His tummy hurt. Dude, like, stop. They didn't put on a great performance tonight, and that's okay. But call it for what it is. Because as a commentator, I talked about this, journalism versus sports reporting and analysis. These guys, to me, are more like journalists as far as I'm concerned. Like, I want to hear an unbiased breakdown of the fight as I'm watching it. I don't want to hear about your favorite house fighter and promoting your favorite house fighter. I don't want to hear that. So I know a lot of people are going to say that people who criticize this performance, they're haters in regards to Shakur Stevenson. That's not the case. This is an honest assessment. Shakur looked sharp at the beginning, and I'm like, okay, he looked sharp. But I thought he was going to end up eventually changing what it was that he was doing, and he simply didn't. And yeah, so I want to read a quote from Edwin De Los Santos after the fight. He says, "I came to fight. He came for a track meet. I'm above his level. He was gifted a title, but I am the champion of the people. He earned a nickname I've given him, Shaquilla Twitterson, because he's not a fighter." And I can understand Edwin De Los Santos' frustration because he wasn't really fighting. And when Shakur was asked, about becoming a 3-time champ, he said, "I really don't care about it. I had a bad performance." I'm glad he said he had a bad performance. "I wasn't feeling too good. No excuses. If I'm feeling like this, I'm going to make sure I box and get a victory." That's an excuse. He says no excuse, but that's an excuse. And then I'm going to tell you why I don't believe that, right? And you can always say you're not feeling too good. I mean, all you got to do is just feel a twinge off and say, I'm not feeling too good. And in your mind, you're telling the truth. Between the 10th and 11th round, they had the camera in his corner. And he said, "I don't know what they're talking about. I've totally taken control of this fight." Because the fans were booing. Well, if that's the case, why are you now saying that you had a bad performance? If you're saying that you've totally taken control of this fight. I don't know what they're talking about. I've totally taken control of this fight. I don't know what they're talking about. So if you know that you're having a bad performance, you don't make that statement because you understand why they're booing, because you don't feel great. So that's why I don't believe that comment. Shakur, don't make any excuses. Just figure out a way to do better. Devin Haney said, "I should have offered this bum 10%. I was being too generous." I will tell you this. I still would pick Shakur Stevenson to beat Devin Haney, but one thing he will not be able to do is fight from range like he did with De Los Santos, because Devin would be able to land from the same range. So he wouldn't be able to play it as safe with Devin as he did with De Los Santos. But it is what it is. I hope you guys don't feel like this is hating Shakur Stevenson. Like I said, I don't hate Shakur. I think he's an excellent young fighter. But, man, he is trying to be a pay-per-view star, and this is simply not the way to do it. This is not how you become a pay-per-view star. So he has to take onus, which he did to some extent. But at the same time, he made an excuse for his performance. There is no excuses for your performance. I don't believe you felt sick. You look fine in the locker room. You look fine walking out to the ring. It is what it is. So own it. Know that you need to do better, and make sure that you have a performance that's aligned to, commensurate with, whatever you want to, whichever word you want to use, with your desire and your expectation in terms of your purse. You know? So we'll see what's in store next for Shakur Stevenson. And you guys let me know what you think in the comment section in regards to his performance tonight. Don't forget to hate, like, comment, and subscribe. This is the Angry Man Podcast, M Sports Media, and I am out.